This is Teen Quest Live, where we create online conversations about youth culture, parenting, and issues facing youth workers in today's world. Our host, Mark Witt, has served as a pastor and youth pastor in multiple churches, and he's the founder and director of Teen Quest, a youth ministry that creates peak experiences for youth groups and teenagers through camping, events, missions, and evangelism. Welcome to Teen Quest Live.
Hi, this is Mark Witt with Teen Quest Live. Bullying is a real problem in America. Kids are being bullied in school, on the bus, at the mall, at the game, or anywhere else teenagers hang out. I believe bullies are verbally abusing or physically harming other victims. Bullies receive pleasure from picking on younger, weaker people. For the next several minutes, we're going to talk about bullying, and my guests are three great youth pastors. David Root from Linworth Road Church in Columbus, Ohio. Justin Tackett from Trinity United Methodist Church, Defiance, Ohio. And Jeremy Shelley from Quest Community Church in Westerville, Ohio. Did I pronounce all your names correctly? Yep. Good having you guys on the program. And we appreciate you taking the time to talk about this very interesting topic that's affecting all of us in youth work, in youth ministry. And my first question is, guys, why do people have to bully other people? David, what ideas do you have?
Well, I think part of adolescence is learning who you are. It's about developing your identity. And also, as part of learning that, there's a large level of insecurity that all teenagers have. When they look in the mirror, they're like, oh my gosh, do I really like myself? And some, I would say boys more than girls, but also girls, one way that they try to feel better about themselves is to point a finger at someone else and say, well, at least I'm better than you. I'm stronger than you. I'm bigger than you. I'm smarter than you. And they exploit the weakness that they see in a peer. And it's, it can be very harmful, for the person on the receiving end of that, but also the bully, himself or herself, trying to feel better about himself or herself and trying to be more secure in who they are. It's terrible, it's misguided, but it's just a function of adolescence.
Jason, do you think that bullying is a bigger problem today than it was, say, 10, 15, 20 years ago?
I would say, yeah. I think kids, there's just a lot more influences with kids, and I know a big thing that's going around, within networks these days, is just like kids feeling entitled to things, and so I think that kind of relates, where there's just a lot more distance created between people and between children, and so they don't feel as bad as maybe 10, 15 years ago, because kind of the atmosphere that's going on right now.
Well, Jeremy, what do you think?
I'd say it's certainly easier to bully someone because of Twitter, because of Facebook, because of all of these social networks where you have a computer between you, and so it's easier to communicate hurtful things, and kids just do it a whole lot more, and so
I think we call that cyberbullying, right?
Yeah.
Kind of put a label on it. And so it's just more convenient to do the cyberbully thing than it was before.
Yeah, and social media has just exploded among teenagers, even just over the last couple of years. And teenagers are just like anyone else. They can be anybody they want to be online. They can say anything they want. They can pretend to be anyone they want. And not many people are. Parents are likely not connected into their children's social media pages, and they can say whatever they want about whoever they want. And it used to be, when you're a victim, you're like, oh my gosh, are these words, are they going to turn into, is it going to turn physical? And now it's not only are the words going to turn physical, is it going to turn into online, where everybody can see it and you can't delete it. It's terrible.
One thing about bullies, they love to get other people in the act. They love to get everybody else involved in picking on that person as well. And I see a growing problem. In the school, we have different classifications of cliques. We have the jocks or the brains or the nerds or the druggies or the preppies or the normals or whatever. You guys may know some more. But we have all these different classifications that are in the school. But do you think cliques make bullies at all?
I think
Total
it could.
side. Yeah.
It could push somebody to become a bully if you're. I mean, yeah, I think at the heart of bullying, other than your insecurities, would be like, and you touched on it, would be your differences, and everybody has different weaknesses, and
Yeah.
so I think birds of a feather flock together, and if there's a bunch of people that are setting themselves apart, and you kind of create more of an identity with that, and so yeah, I mean, I don't think it's always the case, but there's definitely room for that, and I think that it makes it easier because you have people backing you up. You don't,
Mhm.
you're not standing alone.
They say a lot of kids are being bullied, but they don't talk about it. They're too embarrassed to talk about it. And how do you identify? How do you guys in your youth groups identify someone that's being bullied, or maybe identify a bully in your youth group? How do you possibly identify that problem? David, what do you think?
Well, I think it's hard because I think all kids get picked on at some level. All kids have just trouble getting along with their peers at some level, and so it's hard to say for some, well, I'm just having some trouble with my friends, or I'm getting bullied. So it's fair to assume that everyone has trouble with their peers. Everyone has trouble fitting in. Everyone's largely insecure. So I think it's just a matter of getting to know your students. Youth directors intentionally talking with each of their students just to and figure out who they are as an individual, and in that, how are things going at school? How are things going with your peers? Are you getting along okay with everyone? And usually when you're asking those kinds of questions, if someone's being bullied, those kinds of stories start to come out.
Jeremy, do you think you have kids in your group that are being bullied and they're not talking about it?
Most of the kids that are in my group that are bullied tend to not talk about it. In fact, the greatest information pipeline that I have regarding this really comes from the parents, and a lot of times I will engage with them, and they'll let me know about what's going on, so that I can just meet or counsel with the students that are experiencing a lot of this.
So the kids do communicate to their parents about that problem, you're finding?
Yes, and in my context, it's really prevalent for the parents to understand and know what's going on in the kids' lives, and they're very involved, and they want more people to come alongside their children in order to help them and defeat this bullying.
I'm trying to think of some examples in the Bible of bullies in the Bible, and the best example I can think of is Goliath facing David. And teasing him and mocking him and everything else, and of course we know how the story ended. But that's a great example of I think of a bully in the Bible. Well, David really won that battle. But I think we do have a job to try to help students deal with those issues, because I think that bullies are people who really have problems. The bullies themselves are people who have problems. Poor self-esteem. They probably were bullied when they were young, or when they were younger. Maybe picked on them somehow, and they have problems as well. But of course, then you have the students that are being bullied we have to deal with that as well and try to help them. And what can we say to a student who is constantly being picked on, I remember when my older brother would ride the school bus every day. Some kids, we lived in a country area, and some of the kids from the mountain area would be riding the bus, and they would throw rotten eggs in the bus on his head and slap him around because he wasn't part of their group or their clique. I remember him coming home to mom and dad and really being so frustrated because he ride this bus and being picked on. What can we say to a student who is just trying to deal with this kind of thing? What can we do to help them? David, do you have any ideas?
Yeah, I think the first thing you need to do is you need to just affirm who they are. You need to affirm the way that God made them. One of my favorite texts to use for that is Psalm 139. In that you see just David rejoicing over the way that God has made him. He says to God, I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. He talks about how he was knit together while he was still inside his mother, and how God's thoughts about him outnumber the sand on the seashore. And for a victim, their worst fear is that what the bullies are saying is true. And that's what hurts so much, is because they're afraid that, could this really be true about me? Is this what people really think about me? Does it really have any validity? And then you point them to the Word, and you just remind them how God makes things excellent. God doesn't make second-rate things, and every person is unique and individually crafted by God, and that in itself is a beautiful thing. So that's where I start.
I think that's an excellent start, and I usually will add to that something Romans 12. I don't necessarily want to communicate to students. It's your opportunity or chance to get back at a bully. But what I like to remind them is that the Lord is going to be the judge, and He's going to take care, and it's going to be His wrath. And so I will bring up, do not repay evil for evil, and just like that's what we're supposed to do as followers of Jesus. But I love where David starts, because I think every student who's experiencing bullying needs to understand that they're secure in Him, their identity is rooted in Him, and that's that foundation that they need in order to overcome a lot of the struggles that they're facing that's thrown at them from these bullies.
Also, I think would Zacchaeus be considered a bully as a tax collector? And in a different sense, and I guess Jesus kind of affirmed him in a way when He took him in and had went into his house and ate with him, and so that's I just think that's also important.
That's a good point.
My favorite bullying story is actually where the children are making fun of the bald man, and then he has a bear maul them and attack them. I think that's
awesome.
The most beautiful story.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to take a break right now, just for a moment. But when we come back, I want to ask the question: how can we help the bully? How do we identify the bully, and then how do we help him? What can we do to help the person that's a bully? And I'm sure you probably have bullies in your youth group. Maybe you don't even know it. I mean, maybe you do, but you may have bullies in your youth group, and how can we help them? So let's take just a quick break. I want to, for those of you who are watching via the internet or on our podcast, I want to invite you to attend one of our summer weekend camps called Elevate Camp at the Teen Quest Ranch in Somerset, Pennsylvania, just off the Pennsylvania Turnpike in western Pennsylvania. We have activities such as paintball, airsoft, climbing walls, team building elements, horseback riding, boating, swimming, go-karts, skate park, bouldering, biking, and much more. Plus, we have great speakers and awesome worship. Now, I want you to call me this afternoon at 1-800-288-8336 or check out our website, teenquest.org, and I promise you this weekend will be an awesome thing. It's choose a weekend in July to bring your youth group, and it'll be fun and exciting, and we'll be doing some crazy stuff, and it'll be a great time. Just in Somerset, Pennsylvania, give us a call, 1-800-288-8336 or teenquest.org. Well, we're back talking with Jeremy from Quest Community Church, David from Linworth Road Church, and Justin from Trinity United Methodist Church. We're talking about bullying, and there's a lot of young people today that are being bullied, and we have lots of bullies that are. It's a growing phenomena here in the USA, and I believe part of it, we talked about earlier, is the fact that students are online more than ever, and there's greater opportunity to communicate to more people faster, especially on the internet. And of course, I define that as cyberbullying. And it's interesting that we're talking about cyberbullying. When a person is on the internet, that can be a permanent imprint on somebody. You can practically ruin someone's reputation for a long time, and it can be devastating. Jeremy, how do we deal with a kid that's been attacked, in a negative way online, and it never goes away?
Yeah, that's actually a really difficult problem to have to deal with. In our community, Westerville, New Albany, we've actually had, over the last year, 5 students who, because as a result of bullying and cyberbullying in particular, 5 students who have taken their own lives. And I know there's another girl recently in your area, Mark, where the same thing has happened, and it's absolutely devastating, and it's not only affecting the student who's being bullied, but it affects the entire community when it goes that far. And And there's actually a ton of different ways that it can affect someone. It's not just through insults that are being hurled via text or Twitter or Kick or Snapchat or any of that stuff. It can be so many different things and take on various forms. And to be honest with you, I don't know the full answer to your question, but maybe I should defer that a little bit to David. He may have some more insight.
David,
yeah, it's really interesting. Also, just because with everyone having smartphones now, kids have to know that anything they do, anything they say, could be audio recorded, video recorded, or photographed, and those photographs can be sent everywhere and posted online. And it's what makes cyberbullying especially terrible is because it's somebody else posts something and then you can't delete it. It's not something you can ever fully remove or get rid of. It used to be if a bully was giving you a hard time, you found a way to get that bully to not say those things anymore, with getting school involved or parents involved or whatever. But now when things are online, they're online forever. Or the bully shares it with 10 of his friends, who share it with 10 of their friends, who share it with 10 of their friends, and then it's exponentially out of control. And it's really difficult to know what to say because the truth is that this stuff is out there and it's not going away. And a lot of that is just, at that point, you're just helping the student just deal with the grief and deal with the shame and help, as much as you can, just restore the broken pieces of their self-image and their self-worth, because that for sure will take a significant hit through that.
I think we lost Justin, by the way. Is he
Yeah.
there? Oh, there he is. Okay, good. You're back. Great.
I accidentally shut my computer off.
Jeremy, what were you going to say? You were going to add something to that.
Well, I was going to say I think it's important for us as youth pastors to provide learning opportunities for students and for parents to talk about the reality of when something goes on the internet, it is forever there. It's not lost. It's not deleted. It's there. And so we have to be really careful and use a very strict filter on what we decide to put out there for people to see. And I think it's our role as youth pastors to be leaders in teaching those kinds of things to the students and to the families.
Right, and that can be a tough balance because, I read everything that my kids post online. Well, maybe not everything, but most of what they post on their accounts. And I try not to be the parent or the policeman, when they post something that's hurtful, because that's just, it's difficult. But I do try to coach them, hey, what you said could be very harmful and could hurt someone very deeply. Or what you've posted says something very negative about yourself. And just trying to help them realize that more than just being like, you need to delete that, and just kind of put it out there just like that.
Can you guys identify bullies in your youth group? I mean, do you think you may have some kids in that youth group that are bullying other people? Can you identify that? Looks like you're shaking your head, Justin.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can. The tough part is sort of admitting that those people are the bullies, because I know at least one of them in my youth group I actually like, and he's like a senior in high school. I've really connected to him, and I didn't see it right in the beginning when he was there, but I started to pick up on some of the things that he would do during youth group, and especially he would grab people's phones. He even does it to me sometimes, and grabs my phone and will post something on. He doesn't do anything mean to me, but he's kind of that invasive, not really respecting other people's space, and then on top of that, saying things he'll post something about them that they say that's mean about themselves, but it's coming from him, and it's tough because I like him and he's a good kid, but he definitely has tendency to do some things that fall underneath bullying, and
right.
Yeah, it's tough.
Jeremy, what about you? Do you think you can identify bullies in your group, and how do you deal with it?
Yeah, I know I do. I deal with it on a regular.
Oh, we lose Jeremy.
I think we lost him. He's frozen. Huh? Frozen.
Most of it is I think very different than high school.
Okay.
I don't know what just happened.
Yeah, I think you got cut off. Try that one more time. I think you got cut off there.
Oh, okay. Most of the kids in my youth group are middle schoolers, and the type of bullying that happens in middle school, I think, is very different than high school, and a lot of times it can be much darker and just really dangerous. And I have actually had times in youth group where students were bullying other students, and I had to pull a group of boys aside and just explain to them why it's absolutely inappropriate to do what they were doing. And it's an opportunity for teaching and for modeling Christ-like behavior, and I think it's better for us to look at it that way. But I mean, it's a really difficult thing, and well, I'll leave it there.
Well, I would think, David, that a lot of parents are probably concerned about this kind of thing, and I imagine as youth workers or youth pastors, we can sit down with the parents and help them, because they're the ones really in the battlefield. They're right there with their children. I imagine there's something we could do maybe to help them deal with their bullied kids or their kids that are bullying.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's important for parents first just to know the changing culture of bullying, like we've been talking about, the whole aspect of cyberbullying and text messaging and all those things that parents maybe aren't used to or weren't part of their own experience. So helping educate them just the ways that not only their children can be victimized, but the way that their children can victimize others. That, you know, maybe the things that they're posting online about their friends or their friends' parents. It's important for parents just to know as much as they can about what's really out there. It's also important for parents. One thing I find myself doing in my work at the church, and also I also have a counseling practice, and so with some of my clients and getting there with their parents, I'm helping just the parents understand what it's like to be a teenager. So I think parents forget about that a lot. Parents forget about how insecure their kids can be. Parents forget about how kids, you know, just maybe just the slightest word can just be so devastating, and everything's just so much more emotional, and there's all kinds of just things floating around, and that just helping them understand what that's like again. You know, they're not mature. They're very immature at times, and in the whole thing of trying to figure out what it means to be an adult, it's a difficult process, and just reminding parents about what that's like and helping them understand it from their son or daughter's perspective.
Okay, let's talk to the parents for a moment. We have a parent listening. Let's suppose we have some parents listening right now, and they have a child that's being bullied, and they're calling you up and say, Justin or Jeremy or David, what do I do? My son is being bullied, and I'm tired of it, and it's somebody in your youth group that's bullying them. How do you answer? What do you answer? What do you say to them? I'll start with you, David. Well,
first you got to give the empathy. You have to help the parent, you know, just come on and say how sorry you are this is happening, and that it's very unfortunate, and you really feel for their son or their daughter, and how terrible it must be for them. You have to start with that empathy piece. And then after that, I would move to information gathering. Maybe not problem solving right away, but just learning as much as I can about the situation, especially if the bully is in the youth group. You know, I want to know, you know, what's going on as much as possible with my kids, and then just I would express to the parent that, you know, I would work on the situation. I would talk to the bully. I would talk to the bully's parents, and, you know, maybe not pass judgment right away, but you know, definitely help the victim under the bullied person, I would say, rather than victim. I just understand, you know, how sorry I am that it's happening, and also hopefully work towards apologies, forgiveness, and reconciliation.
Jeremy, what could you add to that?
I think what I typically do, actually that's a fantastic start, and usually the only thing that I might add to that is just to really encourage the parent and just to remind them that this is an opportunity for them to build a deeper relationship with their child, and to really take advantage of this moment. And so, you know, just to open up that conversation about emotions, about spirituality, about whatever it is that can come up in there.
And Justin, what would you do if a parent calls you and said, listen, my child is being bullied, and I think the bully's in your youth group, and I need to know what to do?
I would be a little scared. Honestly, right. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
But I know, actually, my pastor is really, really, like, this is one of his, you know, people have sort of mantras that they have a heart for, and this is one of his hearts. Is he just really is not like bullying. He will, you know, cut it off and stick up. So, I mean, I think this isn't something, I've been on the receiving end of this a lot of my life, and so you know, I don't know. I probably have some insecurities there as well still. So I kind of can talk to my pastor and get some guidance there. And that's probably one of the first things I would do is get some help that way. And it might even be just a good idea in general. But yeah, I would definitely the information gathering and talk to the parents. And I know the kid in my youth group who is more prone to bullying he's adopted from Asia, and he really doesn't have a good living situation anyways with his mom. So, on top of all that, it's just like, what do you do in those types of situations? It's just really far beyond. But yeah, I think that's the church's calling, is to deal with these issues. Who else is going to do it?
Right.
Even if the kid is from a home who he doesn't have good parents that want to help him out necessarily, it's the church's job. And so I would definitely call on my resources and then to echo everything that David and Jeremy said as well.
If we were talking to youth pastors, my last question, and we were talking to a group of youth pastors, and we were giving them some advice about how to deal with bullying. Maybe some of them haven't really addressed it in their youth group. Maybe they haven't really identified bullies or kids who are being bullied. And what could we say in closing today that could maybe help another youth pastor deal with this issue? Can I start with you, Jeremy?
Sure. I think I'm going to take a different angle on this than maybe what your question asked, but I think it's really important, and it's been really helpful in my context, and that is to become friends with the folks in the community, principals, vice principals, and teachers at the schools, in order to establish a greater a force for good in the lives of the students. And I would also encourage anybody who has an opportunity to serve for a program like Challenge Day or something else along those lines to be able to get into those programs and help out in the schools, because regardless of what people think about Challenge Day and other programs like that, it really is an excellent opportunity for a youth pastor to push forward the faith standards and just the truth about who people are and their identity in Christ, and to get that onto school campuses to really make a difference in the community.
David, what do you got to add to that?
Yeah, I would just remind youth pastors that in their youth groups are likely victims of bullying and bullies, and not to be naive to that. I would encourage them to remember that the ones who are the bullies were most likely victims themselves first, or are dealing with emotional issues as well. And I would make sure that they speak on it in their small group meetings, in their youth group messages, just to make sure to make that a specific reference to talk about bullying, and let them, that their students know that youth group is a safe place. Both it's a bully-free zone, and it's also a place where victims of bullying can come find safety and acceptance at the youth group.
Justin, what do you want to add to that?
Man, you guys take all the good stuff. I would say I'm very community oriented. So yeah, I would just say like that. I do on Thursdays I have a youth pastor prayer network that I do. I didn't do it today, but so that's a way that if youth pastors could get plugged into a community of other youth pastors, and they would be able. I know that's not directly answering your question about what I would say to them, but I mean it would be a really good start because it's definitely always good to have other stories like we're doing right now to be able to get some outside perspectives and learn more about how to handle situations like that.
Well, Jeremy, go ahead.
I was going to say, I would add one thing too, and actually David and I know each other because of for a lot of reasons, but one of the things that he's the best at he's a wonderful counselor, and I would encourage any youth pastor to make sure that they have a list, short or long, of counselors in their area that they can recommend to parents or to students that they may be able to seek some professional help as in regards to bullying, and to make sure it's a handy list that they have ready.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jeremy, David, and Justin, I am honored to spend some time with you. 30 minutes has gone by pretty fast, and I know there's a lot more we could talk about as far as bullying is concerned, but you guys keep up the good work, what you're doing with these kids, and we need you. We need you guys to keep doing what you're doing, because these young people need leadership, and keep it up, man. That's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for joining us today on Teen Quest Live with Mark Witt. You know, the discussion is just starting. You can visit our website and leave your comments and thoughts about this topic. Find us online at teenquest.org. That's teenquest.org. And we'll see you next time on Teen Quest Live.